What's up guys, it's Julian. I'm back with another video. Today we are going to be talking about how to make modern deep house like ANOTR and Rossi. As usual, you can get the full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And yeah, let's dive in. So here's the project file. This is the loop that you heard in the intro. We're at 126 BPM. And that's the first thing with this more modern deep house sound, you know. It's usually a bit faster. Like back in the day, deep house could be anywhere from like 115 BPM all the way up to like 125 maybe. And then in the past few years, like especially when deep house kind of went EDM, you know, it was more around that range. But I think now the tracks are starting to get a little bit faster, you know. It's a little bit of that like tighter sort of techier groove. So 126, anywhere between like 126 and maybe 132 is a really good tempo for the style of track. And the first sound we have here is the bass, which sounds like this. So here are the notes. You can see it's a really simple bass line. It's only 3 notes. It's just A, C, and E. And if you look at this, it's actually just an A minor chord. Like if I take this E and put it up an octave, see how we have root note, minor third, and then fifth? So yeah, we're just doing that. We're just using the notes from the A minor chord. Really simple, but then just making this very nice and groovy bass line. And yeah, I definitely recommend like trying to make your bass lines more simple for the style. This is one of the big things that I notice when I hear people's tracks that just aren't quite on the level of these producers that we're talking about here, is like a lot of times, you know, people like to overcomplicate their bass lines and do too much, but if you just stick to like 3 notes, you know, super simple groove. You can hear it's going to work really nicely with everything else around it bouncing around so much. For the sound with this one, this is actually a really simple sound. So this is the type of bass you hear in both ANOTR and Rossi's tracks. What it is it's a saw wave and then a sine wave here. I'm using operator, but as you can see, the operator is on this FM algorithm. Basically, this one just says that every oscillator is going to play side by side. So there's no FM happening. It's just a saw wave and a sine wave layered together. And then we just have a low pass filter with a bit of an envelope. And that's pretty much it for the sound. So here's without the filter. And then with it, you know, it's just this quick, tight sound. The main thing with this sound is it's an easy sound to make, but it's a hard sound to perfect because you really want to take your time and get that filter envelope right. Like, the key here is just getting it to be just short enough to where it's not just like a pew, but also where it's not going to be like too long, you know. You just want this quick, like, kind of punchy bass like this. And then I just have a bit of drum bus on that, so here's without the drum bus. And with it, it's subtle, but one thing that you'll notice really happens well here is this kind of evens out the response of the bass because we're filling in some of that harmonic space there. So this way, we can make the bass really fat while still just being like this kind of shorter little pluck like this, versus without the drum bus, you don't have as like even response across all frequencies, so the bass isn't quite as powerful as you want it to be. Then we have the kick. So yeah, this is just like a nice fat 909 style kick that I've layered here, and then I just exported it into one sample for you guys. But then this is just going through some drum bus. So here's without that. And then with this, you can hear same deal here, you know, because this one has a lot of nice click to it. But when we bring in the drum bus, it keeps that click right on top. But then the low end is a lot more even and consistent with that as well. And then the kick and bass are in a group together, just a little bit of saturation. This is just a simple tip to like really get your kick and bass to sound right. Here's without it. And with it, because as you can hear, what this is doing is it's kind of filling in the space between the kick and the bass here. So you're gonna get, it's more like about your actual overall low end than it is just the kick and the bass. Like I think a lot of times people think it's just about getting like a good kick and bass, but really what you want to aim for is trying to make your overall low end cohesive. And the way you do that is by grouping the kick and bass together and doing some processing on both at once. Then we have these chord stabs, which sound like this. So as you can hear, it's two main ones. That one, which just keeps going the whole way through, you can see this one is just playing an A minor chord, so it goes back to what I was showing you with the bass line. And then this one's just a really simple FM sound. We just have a sine wave, and then another sine wave doing a little bit of FM on that, and then that's being detuned, and it's going through a filter. So here's without the filter. And then with it, you can hear the filter just gives it that more like deep, kind of smooth sound. And yeah, and then I've got a bit of a pitch envelope on that as well to make it a bit more plucky, and so you really hear the like the attack on the sound. Then we just have a bit of chorus and a bit of reverb, kind of giving it some space. You can see it's a really short reverb, so just giving it that little like kind of blast of space without ringing out too long. And then finally we just have a bit of drum bus. And then for the second one, which just happens every 2 bars. So the way that this one is made, in terms of notes, it's the same chord actually as the first one I showed you, where you can see we have an A minor chord in there. But then these are actually A minor 9 chords, because we're adding a minor 7th on top, and then we're adding a 9th. And if you look, you can see there's kind of like a pattern here, because there's 2 notes between these, 3 notes between these, 2 notes between these. You can kind of like follow that pattern. But yeah, just adding that, like, those extra 2 voices on top of these really helps to make it stand out from the other one. Because what happens now is you hear this, like, it's grooving with that other one. Like, in the MIDI, we get like a bow, bow, bow. And basically what's happening every time you can hear is because this one is a minor 9 chord, it kind of stands out a little bit from the other chord, versus if we just make this like a regular minor chord, you know, it doesn't stand out quite as much, and it's not going to be as powerful in the track. And the other good thing that using the minor 9 chords does is it gives it that more jazzy, sort of, you know, very classic deep house feel as well. And I think that's a big part of this modern sound of deep house, is that it's not just like, you know, trying to take it into the future, but it's kind of like taking it into the future with elements of what made deep house so good in the past. And these minor 9 chords and chord stabs in general are like a really great way to do that. And yeah, so then for the sound with this one, it's made with analog, just 2 saw waves detuned, going into a low pass filter which has that envelope on it, and then we're automating the low pass, so you can see it's kind of like never the same twice. And it really brings this to life, because you get that like like that, you know, it's kind of like a bit stronger each time, and it's opening up. And yeah, and then we have the amp envelope like that. And then I just have a bit of vibrato and a bit of unison. And then after that, we just have a bit of chorus, another short reverb just like on the first chord stab, and then some drum bus to beef it up a little bit. And yeah, the main thing is just like making sure these chord stabs are going to fit nicely together, like how I kind of have them grooving off of each other like here. And then just letting it breathe too, like, you know, this one plays every time, the more chill one, but if we had this one play every time, it would be too much, so just kind of like knowing how to space them out. And yeah, then we have this pad. So MIDI-wise, what's going on here is these are just regular A minor chords. Like if you look at this, you can see A, C, and E. That's all that these are based on. But then what we're doing is we're adding some extra voices in there, just really just based off stuff that's in the A minor scale. So like, for example, we have a 9th here, which as you can see, the 9th is just 1 note down from the minor 3rd. We have a 4th here, which is just in between the minor 3rd and the 5th. We have a minor 7th on top as well. And then we have another 9th up there. So basically, like I said, basic A minor chord. You add that minor 7th on top, the minor 9th on top, and then we have a 4th and a 9th kind of in the middle there. And yeah, it's just kind of taking notes in the scale and adding them to the chord to make it really feel like exciting and fresh. You know, there's a lot happening there, and it creates this great, just like, kind of like harmonic thing every 4 bars. And there's also that groove you get too, because you hear like these 2 chords which aren't as filled out, and then you just get this like super full big chord like this. And for the sound on this one, the way this is being made is I have this EP faceplant here. So what this is it's just like a sort of like Rhodes, you know, electronic piano sound. Like if I turn off all the effects, it's just like your standard sort of jazzy Rhodes sound. But then what's happening here is I'm putting it through some effects. So the first thing is this bandpass filter. You can see at the start of every 4 bars when the chord hits, it just goes down. So we just get that like, wow, kind of deeper thing happening there. And yeah, that's really good. I've noticed this in a lot of these tracks, because like if you get rid of this, it's a bit dull when it's just, but if you have the filter kind of like closed like that, it makes it a lot deeper and smoother. And then we just have some chorus and reverb to give it some space, a bit of drum bus which is fattening it up, and this really brings out that like kind of crunch too with the filter. Like if I turn this off, hear how it's a bit flat, but then when we add it, we get that super warm, crunchy sort of filter thing happening there with the resonance, and you can definitely bring that up too. It's kind of like that. That's what this drum bus is doing. And then finally we just have a high pass filter, which is cutting out the low end and making sure that it's not going to get in the way of the bass. And yeah, then we have these hi-hats. So this is probably where the most amount of layers are happening, but you can kind of break it down to a few main things. Like we have the main hi-hat, which is this layer, kind of more in the punch, and this one, which gives you more of that like bright high end. And then we're just layering those together so you get that like the attack on the sound, but also you get the body from the second hi-hat. Then we have like these little shakers. You can hear what those are doing, just giving you like that at the end of every hi-hat. Then we have like a shaker loop, just kind of giving it something a bit more steady. And then we have these hi-hats down here, which I'll play like, so there's this one. There's this one. And that little and you can hear those are fitting into the groove. And yeah, so these 3 ones down here, the main thing to keep in mind is just like, these are really important layers. They seem like they're like way in the background, but I promise you that if you don't have these, you're really going to notice in your track. You know, it's all about creating these little like background texture things that aren't really doing so much on their own in the mix, but it's all of them together that are going to add so much to your track. And yeah, and then on the group of hi-hats, we just have a bit of saturation. So kind of like what I was saying with the low end, it's like you don't want to just think of it in terms of like one hi-hat or one like sort of that main one that's the 2 layers or anything like that. You really want to think about it in terms of like all of your hi-hats and how that's contributing to the track. So that's the purpose of doing this group processing here. So here's without this, and then with it. You can hear like the level of each hi-hat becomes a lot more even, and they all get an even texture as well because they're going through the same saturation. And then we have the percussion down here, which is 3 main things. We have this drum rack, which just has these 3 different sort of various percussion sounds in it that are giving like that kind of swing and bounce to the groove. And yeah, then we have this little noise percussion, This is something I heard in a lot of Rossi tracks. And so all that's happening here is it's just a bit of white noise right here, like that's all the sound is, but then it's going into this bandpass filter, which has a really short little envelope on it. You can see it's just making it like a little. And then what's happening is I'm modulating the filter frequency using this LFO. You can see we have it on the filter. And then I'm using this sample and hold setting here. That's what the SNH stands for. And basically what that really means is it's just a random LFO. So you get this bouncing all around the filter sweep. And it's never going to be exactly the same thing twice. So again, this is like one of those kind of background layers that just having that little kind of bouncing around like that you can hear actually makes a big difference in terms of like the airiness of the track. And really just the groove too. Like if I turn this off, it just doesn't feel as like free. And then when we turn it on, there we go. And then finally I just have this clap. So just like a nice quick punchy clap like you would want for the style. And then on the group of all that percussion we just have a bit of drum bus. So here's without that. And with it you can hear it really helps to put these all in a more even place together. And yeah. So that is going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video. It's available right at the top of the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. Thank you so much for all the support lately, guys. And yeah, I will see you tomorrow with another video.